Well, good morning. My name is Tony. This is going to be my final video as a teaching artist and interpreter at the Fraser Museum. So I figured it's going to be my last. I might as well make it be something that I love. We're going to go on a bike ride. I got this ridiculous looking rig to put on top of my helmet so that I could put that phone on the way because I'd like for you to ride with me. So we're going to go to various places in Louisville and talk about cycling and cycling history. And this is the perfect time to do it because you may or may not have noticed if you went out to buy a bike at any time in the past few months, a lot of them are sold out. It's because there's this resurgence of cycling, partly I imagine because of the pandemic and people wanting to get exercise but also wanting to have social distance, and so there's kind of a cycling renaissance, which I think is beautiful. Cycling for me is one of the most fulfilling types of exercise I've ever found, really. The wind in your hair, and I could go on, but and those of you who know me well know that this is my joy. So let's get on the bike, and we're going to have a few stops. I'll talk about some history, but I hope you enjoy, and I hope this thing even works. Who knows? It's got two suction cups there where it sticks, and there may be some video of my phone hitting the ground. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, let's go. Okay, this is stop number one. We're at the corner of 4th and Broadway. Obviously, Broadway goes both ways, east and west. But the reason I stopped here is because in 1897, and that was the heyday of cycling in Louisville, the mayor at that point in time, Charles Weaver, as one of his campaign promises, said, "What I will do is I will pave over that cobblestone Broadway with vitreous brick, making it a nice smooth pavement." Partly, I would imagine, for those people in horse and buggy, but also I think it's a recognition of how many people were riding bicycles in Louisville. We'll talk about that in a second, but there were lots and lots of cycles. In fact, every day in the Courier-Journal in 1896-97, at least during the summer, there were 2 pages that were dedicated to cycles and cycling here in the city. But Broadway at that point in time was cobblestone, dirty, and rough, and cyclists were having a hard time with it. So it's interesting to note that the mayor, as his campaign promise, or one of them, was going to pave over those cobblestones with brick. Stop number 2. Okay, so this next stop on the corner of 4th and Muhammad Ali, right here, right next to 4th Street Live, starts like a joke. In 1897, I believe it was, a doctor, a lawyer, and a journalist enter a bar. And at this bar, the doctor and the lawyer got into a little bit of an argument about how many bicycles were in Louisville at that time. And the lawyer claimed there were well over 15,000. And the doctor said, there's no way. And so they actually stood and watched one day, here on this corner, how many bicyclists passed by in 1897. And they counted over 2,300 cyclists passing this corner. So like I said, it was a heyday. I mean, you don't see many now, but 2,300 in 3 hours. So, yeah, absolutely. Heyday in Louisville. All right, next stop. All right, so we just got a couple blocks, or 1 block actually, 4th and Chestnut, right here, right on this corner. I don't remember which one. There was originally a post office and customs office, and it was purchased to build a racetrack. It was the second velodrome, I believe, that was built in Louisville. We're going to go to the site of the very first velodrome. In fact, the first velodrome in the entire country, right here in Louisville. That's next. So hopefully you'll recognize where I am now. Behind me is Central Park. This is the site right here. St. James Court is the site of the very first, as far as I know, velodrome, cycling racetrack in the country. It was built in 1881 right here. Many, many races took place here. I'll put maybe some information up, but I think it's fascinating to think this was one of many, and the very first in the country, right here at 4th and Mag. I looked at the last 2 or 3 videos, and it appears that my aiming of the camera wasn't very good. So, sorry that you had to stare at the street for some of that. I made it fast, so it didn't look. That's what I get. Fitting to end here, this is the Wheelmans Bench. It was built in 1897 in memory of A.D. or Pap Ruff, who died just a year before in January in 1896. Pap Ruff, something about making a video between 2 streets. Not a good idea. It sounded like a great idea when I was thinking of it. Man, I'll take him on a bike ride. Talk to him from the street, so. It's car. Oh, quiet. Okay, here we go. This is the final stop of the small tour. It is the Wheelmans Bench. It is a semicircular limestone bench dedicated to a man named A.D. or Pap Ruff. Pap Ruff, there it is again. I mean, I hope I've got enough stuff to kind of put together here without looking too choppy. So I think this is a fitting place to end this particular brief tour of Louisville on a bicycle. And it is the Wheelmans Bench. The Wheelmans Bench is located not far from Churchill Downs. It's right where, almost where 3rd Street turns into or kind of splits off from Southern Parkway. And it is a semicircular limestone bench with, if you look at the concrete in front of it, there are these bricks that are inlaid into what looks like a hub in the middle. So it looks like spokes coming out. And right in the middle of that is a water fountain. The idea was to have a place where wheelmen, people on the bike, could stop and quench their thirst. Now it is actually built, or was built, in memory of A.D. Ruff. A.D. Ruff was also known as Pap Ruff. He had a trademark long white beard, and he was seen more often than not riding an ordinary, which, as you know, big wheel in the front, little wheel in the back, and sometimes with his feet over the handlebars, with his beard trailing behind him. Well, they had a term for if you went over the front. They called it a header. And so sometimes people would put when they were going fast, they put their legs over the handlebars in front, just in case they had to go over, and then their feet were in front of them. He was supposedly, according to the Courier-Journal, the oldest member of the League of American Wheelmen. And when he died, he amassed a small fortune. Some of that went to the League of American Wheelmen. That fortune likely came from his patents. He was an inventor, among other things, and one of the things he invented was a cyclometer for your bicycle. But that money, some of that money, was used to build this particular bench. Also, coming straight down 3rd Street, Southern Parkway, in that same year, 1897, that I keep speaking of, there was a cinder track along 3rd Street and along the boulevard, as they called it, the Grand Boulevard, which was Southern Parkway. And when they opened that in 1897, in October, they had a grand parade. And that grand parade included 10,000 people on bicycles. There was a cannon and bugles and all sorts of costumes. And maybe as many as 50,000 people actually came to watch this parade. it's a reminder to me of how important cycling has been in Louisville. If you want to learn more about cycling in Louisville, there are two sources that I relied upon specifically for much of this information. One was a book by Carson Torpy, and that is entitled The Golden Age of Wheeling in Louisville, or Bicycling in Louisville. And it's got all sorts of information. And the other is the Louisville Bicycle Club's history page. Joe Ward, who has since passed, wrote several articles about bicycling history in Louisville. And both of them are great sources of information. So I encourage you, if you're more interested, and you could perhaps find things, certainly in those books, but also in the Courier-Journal maybe, about what important sites existed in Louisville. That's where some of my research came from as well. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks a lot for joining me. It's a beautiful day. Get out there. And as someone told me once long ago, I hadn't heard it before, but I like it. I said, "How you doing?" And they were riding on their bike, and they said, "The mile is young." So, the mile is young. Get on out there.